Hi guys, Ready Set RC, and today we have the Arrma Vorteks 10th scale 4-wheel drive electric stadium truck. They are touting this is 60 miles per hour plus, and that is with the optional speed gear. This is 3S capable, it's ready to run. Here we are guys, Arrma Vorteks 4x4, 3S, BLX. I really like the graphics that are on this car, guys. I still think I'm for the purple one a little bit more, but I'm appreciating the red even more out of the box than I saw it with the graphics. I really like how the body pops on here. As you guys can see, it has the skid guards on the top, spoiler affixed to the body on here. We still have the tethering system that is typical with Arrma, so the body pins are tethered to the body shell. Let's get the body off and let you guys see this up close. You have the support for the skid guards up in there. You have the support for the spoiler up in there. You also have some protection on the body mounts that are on here. But as I was saying, guys, I'm really liking the graphics on this thing. This thing just looks amazing. You know, Arrma always pulls out all the stops when it comes to their bodies and how the graphics are designed and how the bodies are laid out. I mean, I'm really liking this car, guys. I'm really liking this. I wish they could have done a little bit better, and I know Vass had mentioned this too. I really wish they could have put a little bit more detail when it comes to that rear spoiler. It just feels like it wasn't thought out too well on the back there. But as for everything else, I'm liking how this is all mated up. It's really looking good. So what do you get in the box? You get the owner's manual, a technical guide, and that kind of just does a walkthrough in regards to your gear mesh, motor, a blowout of the actual truck. It's almost like a quick start guide, guys. Just something to just, you know, tips and tricks of how to look through and setting up your slipper clutch and the multi-use tool to work on the truck. I think Razor RC does a very good demonstration of how to use this. One on his Instagram, which I love. And then he does another one on his YouTube channel. He shows how this tool is used on the hexes, adjusting the slipper clutch, and also adjusting or working on the shocks. You'll see that the 11B that he uses on his channel is for the shocks on the Arrma Vorteks, and then the 15B he hints to a possible release that Arrma is going to come out with. We'll see where that goes. Does a very good explanation of this tool. Check it out if you have not already. It definitely walks through it. Probably the best that I've seen on YouTube so far of walking through actually the uses for this tool. Some of the other things that you get in the bag, you get some body tethers, you get some spacers for the shocks, and one of the other things that you get in here is a 20-tooth pinion for the high-speed runs. Definitely going to be installing that on this truck and seeing how that performs. And the last thing that you get is the DX3 controller. It has a foam wheel, it has the AVC on here, brake rate, steering trim, throttle trim. You have a steering reverse on here, a throttle reverse on here, the limiter for 50, 75, and 100. You have the battery meter on this as well. And on the DX3, you have a section to add the Bluetooth module to this controller. That gives you the telemetry readings for this truck. And there is also an optional phone mount for this controller to work with the Bluetooth module that's also optional for this controller. Batteries, as I said, does not come with the controller, but it's 4 AA's that are needed to operate this controller. This is a 3-channel controller, so you do have the 3rd channel down here at your thumb. Completely new to the 3S lineup. Before, you guys were getting the STX controllers, the SLT controllers, and now we finally get the DX3 controller, which also gives us DSMR, which means if you have a DSMR controller, meaning another Spectrum controller, you can bind this up with it, and it gives us AVC, guys. What you will need to complete this RC, guys, is you will need 4 AA batteries, a 2S or a 3S LiPo battery, and the charger for that LiPo battery. Overall length of this truck is 18.5 inches or 470 millimeters. The height of this truck is 6.42 inches or 163 millimeters. The width of this truck is 13.31 inches or 338 millimeters. The weight of this truck is 6.5 pounds or 2.95 kilograms. New for the Vortex, we have a new design bumper on this truck, adjustable turnbuckles on the front and rear. Up in the front, you have adjustable links for camber and tow, adjustable body mounts on the front and rear. This truck, it is a modular design. That means that the front, the rear, all pop out. Very simple. Minimal screws that need to be removed to pop out the front and the rear of this truck. You have the dirt guards up here in the front. This chassis is a complete composite chassis. Those of you that have had the 3S and the 4S lineup, you know that these trucks are prone to get rocks within the steering links. They're saying that they have some clearance to allow the rocks to come out. I don't know how much that's going to work, but we'll see how that is. Center drive shaft is telescopic. Similar to the 3S and the 4S lineup. But for this shorter wheelbase, there is no bearing that is giving the stabilization on the center drive shaft on this one. Shocks on this truck, front and rear, are oil filled. These are different shocks that you will see than on the previous 3S and 4S lineup. They're shorter shocks, guys, really for a stadium truck type build. For the shocks, you have part number ARA 330722 for the front. And for the rears, you're looking at part number ARA 330723. I don't own a Granite, but from what I'm reading on these, they look like new shocks for the 3S lineup. They are a shorter shock from what I've seen on the renderings for the Granite, and definitely a shorter shock than what I've seen on my Big Rock or my Outcast 4S. So I'm thinking that these are newer shocks for the Arrma Vorteks with a composite shock tower in the rear, and coming off of the rear you have a wheelie bar, and on this wheelie bar the wheels are actually rubbered wheels. I don't know if you guys remember previously on the 3S and 4S lineup, those wheels were plastic. Center drive shaft on this truck is composite. Front and rear drive shafts on this truck are also composite. Bearings on this truck are rubber sealed. Differentials in this truck are metal geared. You have a Spectrum Firma 3660 3200 kV motor, and that motor has a heat sink and a fan on top. You do also have an adjustable metal motor mount on here. No longer is there the fixed ones that they used to have in the first gen of the 3S lineup. You do have a 100 amp ESC connector coming off the ESC is a IC5 connector. As for the servo, you have a Spectrum SPM S651 metal geared servo in this truck. It's a 23-tooth splined servo. Just keep in mind, if you plan on swapping the servo out on this, it's a 23-tooth spline on this servo. Typically we see 25-tooth. That's one of the things that I notice across the line with most Spectrum servos. Outside of that, guys, from most of the layout that you're going to see within the inner part of the truck, it's very similar to the 3S and the 4S lineup. As for the wheels and tires, the wheels are very reminiscent to Proline. I'm wondering if that has any influences from Proline on here. As for the tires, these are Qatars, guys. Anyone that's familiar with the Typhon and Italian, these are the Qatars. They're the same treads that you have on those two vehicles. I'm actually running the Qatars on my Arrma Phazon if you guys haven't seen those videos. But you know, they're on-road base type tire. They're very shallow based on here. On these, they are a lot firmer, guys. I mean, these things are, I would say they're perfect for a flat surface. That's what they feel like. These would, you know, they're not belted tires, but they are pretty firm. They are vented, so you guys could, I don't know if you guys are picking that up, but they're vented from the tire outside, and you can hear that as you squeeze the tires through. So there is foams in there, but they're extremely firm. Suspension on this, guys, for the rear, feels pretty well dampened, a little stiff. The front, very soft, very plush. The travel is not much, guys, and that's because the ride height is very low. As I said, this to me is probably going to be very well on compact surfaces, tarmac, asphalt. It's definitely one of those vehicles that looks like it's set up for that. I'm going to run it on a variation of services for the first runs, and I'll let you guys, and you guys will come along for the ride and see how it performs. Here we are, guys. Arrma Big Rock Gen 2, Arrma Vorteks 4x4. You guys can see how these two trucks line up. You can see the higher ground clearance on the Arrma Big Rock. My Arrma Big Rock, guys, so you know, is more set up to the Big Rock Gen 3. I do have a wider stance on this. I am running it a little bit different than you would see on a typical Gen 2 Arrma Big Rock. But as for the wheelbase isn't changed. The width on mine is even wider than the Arrma Big Rock Gen 3. But I figured it would give you guys a good comparison of what the Arrma Big Rock versus the Arrma Vorteks looks like in regards to size. But here we are, guys, showing you another angle in regards to the width of the two trucks. You guys can see from the inners that the Arrma Vorteks is just slightly wider. If you take the outside of the tires, it's almost spot on. But the Arrma Vorteks is just, looks like it's set up to handle well, guys. I just really like how the track width of this truck is nice and wide. It's low to the ground. But let's give you another angle so you guys can see exactly how these trucks are laid out. So there we are, guys. Just so you get a better angle of how the trucks are laid out in regards to the wheelbase, you can see how the wheelbase of the Arrma Vorteks is just slightly smaller than the Arrma Big Rock. Battered and bruised, you guys can see my Arrma Outcast 4S compared to the Arrma Vorteks 3S. This truck just dwarfs it. This truck is definitely a wider than your normal 10th scale monster truck, but you guys can see the differences between the two. It's just a lower slung vehicle on the Arrma Vorteks. I'm gonna give you guys a couple different angles so you can see the width and the wheelbase of the two trucks. Here we are, guys. Arrma Vorteks, Arrma Outcast. You can clearly see the width difference between the two trucks. This is just a wider setup than the Arrma Vorteks. Just wanted to give you guys another angle so you guys can see the difference between the two. Let's give you one more angle and let you guys see how these trucks compare. Last angle for these two trucks. Hopefully you guys are picking that up, that the wheelbases on these two trucks are spot on. They're the same wheelbase that you can see between the two. The wheelbase on the Arrma Outcast 4S is the same that you would see on the Granite. I don't own a Granite, guys, but this is the closest thing I got. And you guys can see on the Arrma Vorteks, the wheelbase is the same. So if you guys got a Granite, an Outcast 4S, you're gonna see that the wheelbase on the Arrma Vorteks is the same between all three trucks. What you're going to see is different between the three, or it's going to be the width. The width and definitely the ride height between the three trucks are going to be different. But when it comes to the wheelbase, they all share the same wheelbase, or better yet, the same shorter wheelbase chassis on all three trucks. But that's it, guys. We've done an unboxing, an overview of the Arrma Vorteks, and a comparisons with the Arrma Big Rock and the Arrma Outcast. But please like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video, guys, because that's how we get the channel out there and pumping. Check us out on Instagram for our latest posts to the channel. This is Ready Set RC signing out. Thanks again, guys.